feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming in Monday morning, it's March 16th, after the Wolves' 13-point loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder on Sunday afternoon. And this whole episode is going to be about that game. Randle had a big game. Wolves turned it over like crazy. Gobert had a really rough going of it. They did a good job against SGA, and we'll take into account this game's result when also talking about a playoff series between these two teams. There's a lot of focus on this episode on the Wolves Thunder matchup, of course, specific to yesterday, but also big picture as we think about a playoff series between these two teams. But before I bring in Jason, we get into Wolves Thunder. I did want to say I'm sorry the watch party for this game that we were supposed to do at Treasure Island was canceled. You know, it's a crazy blizzard here in Minnesota. I'm recording this from home. I didn't even go into the office today. But yeah, we weren't able to do the watch party for Wolves Thunder and the live show at Treasure Island. They let me know on Saturday that they were canceling the entire event. I really hope that that message all got out to you. I'm sorry we didn't do a podcast, obviously, on Saturday in the time between our previous episode and this one. So I really hope nobody trudged all the way through the snow down to Treasure Island only to find out the event was canceled. We will reschedule a live show and watch party at Treasure Island here soon, and I will let you know all about what that's going to look like when I know. If you did drive all the way down there on Sunday to find out it was canceled, send us an email at DaneMooreProductions@gmail.com. We'll make it up to you at the next live show that we do for sure. All right, 60 minutes with Jace coming up next on that Wolves Thunder game yesterday. We spend a good amount of time on the question of what are the Wolves' odds of getting back to the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. All right, we are now joined by Wolves beat writer Jace Frederick. I'm at home. There's like a foot of snow outside, and he's joining me virtually here. I want to start with the offensive side of the ball, Jace, from yesterday's Wolves Thunder game. Julius Randle has a really big stat line, 32, 7, and 6 in that game. The Wolves turn it over a bunch is another huge factor in that. And then I think there was a lot of other smaller sort of things that sort of added up on the offensive side of the ball, where it was a game where the Wolves had some things working when you look at the box score at the end of the day, but ultimately it seemed like I felt there was a pretty big distance between where the Wolves offense was at and where it will need to be to, consistently beat a team like Oklahoma City. What stood out to you most about the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think I'd go to the place where I think it started to fall apart a little bit, the third quarter, and particularly the latter half of the third quarter. And for me, like, what stood out was just a couple possessions of Rudy Gobert kind of struggling around the rim, which we've seen in the past. It's nothing new necessarily, but that was kind of an issue that we see yesterday, and we've seen it in the playoffs, and it kind of rolls forward. And it's opportunities at the rim where sometimes he's great, and we see it in these games, and he has these monster stat lines, but these competitive teams where all five guys, even undersized guys in these situations, are scrappy and physical and really contest. And it was just another reminder of, like, these are tough spots for Rudy. Even when you get in that restricted area where you think you should be pretty dominant, when you have guys in there, like maybe slapping wrists, slapping up ball, whatever. And it's so difficult for him to finish in those spots that I think it is kind of limiting. Like, certainly you see in the playoff matchups and the matchups in general where teams just game plan and go, hey, like, part the seas, let this guy roll, make them hit him in those spots. But and you can live with that. He can make out of it or whatever. But it's just those matchups like yesterday where these teams are really committed to what they do. They don't give up anything easy, to where they're like, okay, whoever it is, I don't care if it's Jared McCain, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, whatever, like, at the rim, when he gets the ball there, we're not going to give up anything and nothing easy, make him earn everything. And then you just see, like, the misses there. And then those are the misses at the rim that can lead to runouts the other way. And, like, it is an issue. It's an issue for when you're trying to generate consistent offense, because when that's the look and you can't count on it when you actually execute it, I think that's tough. And that is one of those things I think of why there oftentimes are playoff series go where you're like, oh, like offensively, like Rudy struggled or didn't have a big impact and they couldn't play him more than 25 minutes or whatever. And it was a kind of another reminder of that in my mind.
Yeah, it was the end of the third quarter. There's 4 minutes left in the third quarter. Rudy Gobert comes in for Julius Randle, and the Wolves are up by 5. They're up 71-66. And the lineup that's out there is Gobert, Reed, Anderson, Edwards, and Dosunmu. And a lot of the fumbles that you're talking about that Rudy was having at that time, and I'm sure people remember from watching the game, was that group out there. It was in those 4 minutes or at the end of the third quarter. And it's where the game really went from a 5-point lead and it really fell apart. I think it's interesting to look at what like the rest of the group was there and be like, well, why did Rudy get like 5 opportunities in the final 4 minutes of the third quarter? You know, like we both understand you need to include Rudy in the offense some,
right.
But it was a lot of Rudy. And it's because Kyle Anderson was running point guard, because Kyle Anderson's out there with Rudy. It's the Rudy minutes, and Finch wants Anderson out there. So for it to not be a like nobody's guarding Rudy and then Kyle's wide open in the corner, Finch in the offense felt like they had to have Kyle Anderson being the point guard that whole time and Ant's playing off ball. And so now it's like, because Kyle can't shoot and because he's out there with Rudy Gobert, they have to run Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert 2-man game to, you know, kind of like stem the tide here of the final 4 minutes of the quarter. And they lose those final 4 minutes 5-14, you know, and it was the first real like striking one to me of like Finch might not have enough discipline around this whole Kyle Anderson thing, because for Kyle to play, which I get why he's playing and they whatever, but to be putting him out there in a lineup like that, I think we've just started to see a couple of them, and this was a loud one where it's like, this just doesn't really work, especially against a team like Oklahoma City, because it's just going to be too much Anderson and Gobert, and I don't think Anderson and Gobert 2-man game is going to generate high-level offense, even if it's for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's like watching those, and even like Kyle turnovers yesterday, there was some to Julius and stuff where I was like, these are good passes. But then it leads to somebody who is trying to operate in maybe like there was a crease there, but then they have to finish through traffic.
Right.
And the guys you're passing to just aren't skilled enough to do that. You know, so like I see the execution points. I'm not necessarily even blaming Kyle for these things. Like the plays to Rudy, I was like, yeah, that's the right play. If all personnel is equal, you know, and that guy's at the rim. But it's just like, it's setting up somebody to do something that they're just not good at. And that was the case yesterday with Rudy, and then even Julius a couple times. Or like it's like a pocket pass to somebody who then is trying to operate, get into the paint against one of just the teams that is the best at reaching in and getting hands on balls and knocking them away. And that happened again and again. And like with OKC, like Kyle out there is inevitably going to be more of a slow it down half court game. And time again, we see like the Wolves, their opportunity to score against Oklahoma City is early in the shot clock. It's playing an up and down game. It's TJ in the past. It's Io yesterday. It's playing in transition or semi-transition. And man, when you go Rudy, Kyle, you're probably going to play a slow it down game, and they just don't. That's just not an option against Oklahoma City. The Wolves don't have enough skill on the floor to be able to do that, to where you can play deep into the shot clock or these executed half court sets that I understand you feel like you probably need sometimes, because it's like, how are you constantly going to be going up and down? But it's just a losing battle for Minnesota in this matchup, and we saw that again. I think like whenever you have to slow it down, you're gonna be toast against Oklahoma City, because you don't have enough ball handling for it, and you don't have enough skilled finishers around the rim to execute that kind of stuff, and all of it. It just doesn't work. And yeah, they ran into a really bad time in that third quarter yesterday, and like not a ball handling matters for it, and Rudy's skill around the rim matters for it. Like it all plays into it. To where you end up in these bad spots. But yeah, Kyle Rudy lineup in that situation was going to only like highlight it.
Well, so the thing is like they just needed another engine. They needed more outside of Julius, because you got this good Julius game, right? Efficient shooting, 8 of 13 from 2, 3 of 5 from 3. Best plus minus of the starters in the game. Again, his stat line was 32, 7, and 6. So you basically just need to get like kind of anything else going, or not really mess up something else, to be able to probably ride that good Randle game to a win. Are you going to be able to get 7 Randle games like that in the playoff series? I doubt it. But when you get them, you need to not blow it up elsewhere. And I think what we're talking about with the Rudy and Anderson minutes there and the turnovers that came during that time, what we're saying is, this is what blew up the good Julius game, right? And Ant's turnovers blew up the good Julius game. The fact that this was the Wolves' highest turnover rate game of the season. You do not have that margin for error against Oklahoma City, and it just makes me think of like, okay, this was an awesome Julius Randle game, and they still lost pretty handedly. Like, what is the score of this game if Julius Randle has another one of his like 10 points on 2 of 13 shooting games that have been the norm of late? Like, that's another 30, 40 point blowout, I think, yesterday. And that's the concern I have with this team right now. I think it's a good representation of it. If like, all right, something can be working really well, but if these other things aren't working well in conjunction with it, then it's like, yeah, we can say it has this really high ceiling when all those things go together, but really the ceiling is not that high if not all 3, 4, 5 engines are on and functioning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, they did have quite a few things go well yesterday. Pretty good on the glass, and like you said, Julius was really going, and just in general as a team, they shot well from 3. And like you said, then but by the end, you look up and it's like, yeah, not close. By the fourth quarter, when games are truly decided, like, there wasn't in contention for the last 6-7 minutes of that game. Like, it was pretty much over. It felt like it would have taken some kind of miracle for Minnesota to get back in that game. So you can't be like, oh, well, we just don't turn the ball over. It's like, well, that's kind of what OKC does. Like it's kind of like, oh, let's just not play into their strength. It was the same thing heading into the playoffs last year of like, let's just, this high turnover team, let's just not turn it over against this team that forces turnovers. It's like, hey, good plan. I get that that's what you have to say, but every time that they have to slow it down, they don't have the ball handlers. Like, they're going to turn the ball over against this high pressure, very handsy defense that is really good at that. And so it really does feel like.
So what do they do?
OKC,
what's the move? Like,
I don't know if they really have a way to move. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, that's the best team in the NBA, and I don't know what the plan is. Like, it seems like their path to victory is get OKC to miss jump shots, take those rebounds, generally miss jump shots, lead to good opportunities in transition, and go score. That really feels like the plan, what works. The problem is, what I think is a big difference is OKC now has Jared McCain, who can come in and hit shots at a higher rate than a lot of guys that they've had in the past. Isaiah Joe continues to be better as a basketball player, more involved than he's been in the past. Mitchell is significantly bigger. Like, he was not really a part of the rotation last year's West Finals. Now he is. He's a pretty big one. And like another guy who like is good with the handle, good with shot making. They've added a lot of that. So they have options, because if you like the first quarter and a half, like before McCain comes in yesterday, it is like, oh, okay, Case Wallace missing jump shots, Lou Dort missing jump shots. Okay, now you get
Caruso,
transition going the other way. Yeah, Caruso. Like, okay, these are guys who are a little bit inconsistent, and so maybe that's your path. Is that it's not their shooting day, and now you're going the other way. But OKC now has kind of refined their roster to it's like, okay, we have other options. We have guys who maybe they aren't quite as good defensively, but they can solve this offensive issue. And I've seen that in multiple games for them. I saw when they beat Denver recently, and then yesterday. Like, they have fewer and fewer holes all the time, and this is all without Jalen Williams out there. Like, I don't know what the path is, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you can be like, well, you got to do this and this. Like, well, don't turn it over. Don't I force them into turnovers. Like, hope they miss shots. Really does feel like the plan. And they have more options now to where I think it's going to be like, oh, they just couldn't hit anything yesterday. Like, they have different buttons they can press if that's playing out.
And I think this like futility you're describing, I think you would also apply to a Thunder Rockets series or a Thunder Lakers series.
It's not Wolves specific. It's like the Wolves have played poorly this week, but that game yesterday, I'm just watching them incorporate McCain recently is like, it's going to be really tough to beat this team. Really tough.
So you get the awesome Julius Randle game. No Jalen Williams in this game, who very much bothered Julius Randle in the Western Conference Finals from a guarding him standpoint last night. Which, I don't know, I think if I'm the Wolves coaching staff and regrouping right now, we're going, well, okay, we need to try to get this version of Julius in a playoff series. But I would be asking myself, what out of 7 games, how many of those games can I reasonably expect Julius Randle to have anything close to this? I mean, maybe it's multiple, maybe it's 3. I don't know. Do you know where I'm going with this? Of like,
Yeah.
if this is this feels like this has to be the Wolves' like pathway to beating Oklahoma City, is to have a effective and involved Julius Randle in this game. But we know he's extremely inconsistent. That you might just go to a series against the Thunder. He might just do that one game, and then the other 6 don't. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say here is, if I'm the Wolves coaching staff, did I feel like I found my blueprint for how to play against Oklahoma City where it's Julius like this? Or am I looking at it like, well, we just got that with Julius and we still weren't even close. Is there a different way we need to be playing? Do we need to like do we need to lean into Julius more, or do we need to make him more of a role player? Like, I don't know. I'd be curious. I think what their answer would be is we got to play through Julius in this sort of way. But I just wonder, like, what the odds are that Julius Randle can have even 4 good games in a 7-game series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that seems like a fundamental flaw to me.
I think it was like two or three like good shooting games in the West Finals last year, and then a couple disasters, right? Like, if I remember,
I think it was 2. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it was like game 1 where they got pretty well smoked in the second half, and then I don't know if he was even good in that game 3. I don't remember. I think he. There was another game where he shot well. I don't know if it was even the game they won, to be honest. Yeah, so I don't know if that is like an ultimate solution for them. And like you said, he's kind of his game is volatile, especially this season, probably more so this year than even last year. So I'm with you. And the biggest thing for me, I just say it again and again, and it almost sounds boring, but like, it's where is it coming? Like, is it Julius playing the up-tempo basketball that he played in the first month of the season? Because I think, like, if he's getting out, making quicker decisions and at least a semi-open floor, then okay, that's good. And then that's where you get more rotation, and then the threes are open, and it's not these off-the-dribble things that, frankly, don't feel like they have a chance these days. And that's a better version of Julius, but like, against slowing down and trying to really be methodical and going into these defenses where, yeah, they're in the gaps and there's like 3 different arms that you're trying to get through, and you're inevitably turning the ball over, because that's what Oklahoma City does. Like, the things that he's worst at are even more disastrous against Oklahoma City. So it has to be a different brand of basketball than the worst version of him, because that's never going to work. So it's got to be up and down. It's got to be in the open floor. And they got to some of that yesterday. And I think that is why he shined, like, because he wasn't going up against these stacked defenses. And it was more like one-on-one type of stuff, or playing a little bit more off the catch. Like, those 3 were off the catch, like one bounce at max, but a lot of catch and shoots. And it was good for him to see those go down, because those haven't gone lately. But it's like better look, better offense. And it's like, hey, when you can play through Julius as a form of good offense, because it's usually coming off of something else, then great. But it's just one thing saying, like, they have to play well.
Today's show is brought to you by First Resource Bank. And First Resource Bank is an FDIC-insured bank with locations throughout the state of Minnesota, including their new branch in downtown Minneapolis, right by the Vikings Stadium. And if you're a small business owner like I am, I know from my own personal experience that community banks like FRB can do more to help you achieve your small business dreams, whether it's for personal banking or business banking. FRB has that hometown feel in there where you get to know your banker, you get to know the people who are there, and you just don't deal with that same sort of rigmarole you deal with at the bigger name banks. That, again, personally, I've worked with them too. First Resource Bank is a community bank that is pumping money back into the community here as well. And if you have personal or professional banking needs, I really do recommend working with their owner, Tim Siegley, and his team at First Resource Bank. We would love it if you checked out First Resource Bank in person or line at myfrb.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and with less than a month left in the season, we are getting real close to award season in the NBA, and those are things you can pick on over at Prize Picks. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, all the different awards. And we're seeing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has become the overwhelming favorite to win MVP, with Jokic and Wemby distant second and third best odds there. Wemby is also the heavy favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy still has the third best odds, but those are distant odds there as well. The two awards a Wolves player has a real shot at winning is Sixth Man of the Year and Clutch Player of the Year. But those odds are moving against Nas and Ant. Nas currently has the second best odds to win Sixth Man, but Jaime Jaquez is currently past him in the odds there. And then Ant is gone from the leader of Clutch Player of the Year to third best odds. Both SGA and Jokic have jumped past him according to the odds over at Prize Picks. Though I do still think Ant has a strong shot in that award, especially if he has a strong close to the season in the clutch. But all those are up there at Prize Picks. All of these awards can be wagered on over on the teams tab. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code Dane when you sign up. You receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane. So the Wolves are 2-2 against the Thunder this year. And when you look at all four of the games, it's they had one really good offensive game against them. That was January 29th when they played them 5-6 weeks ago, whatever that was. And they really, really shot the ball well in that game. They made like half of their threes. Still turned it over a lot in that one game. But the Wolves have had one good offensive game out of the four against the Thunder. And then you look at the other three games, and their offensive rating in those games is all under 110. The Wolves have had 18 games this season where they have an offensive rating under 110, and they're 5-13 in those games. Like, this team, because the defense isn't what it once was, like these low-end offensive games, they very rarely pull themselves out of. And it's what I wrote down in this to you in the outline was like, can this Wolves offense compete with this OKC defense? Because that's the level the OKC defense pushes all teams, to play at. They have a defensive rating under 110. And I don't know like what the Wolves' path is to finding consistent and efficient offense for themselves. I think it's about making a bunch of threes and probably playing fast, but it's kind of things that feel a little less controllable than I would feel comfortable with if I were Finch. Of like, whoa, we got to shoot a lot of threes and make 40% of them. Like, yeah, we can kind of control that by our offense, but like, I don't know. It just seems right. It's going to require a very high bar of the Wolves offense to be able to beat this Oklahoma City team. Now, I think we've learned.
It's just like they shot so well from three and they scored 103 points.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and just to go back to this thing, like playing fast, like when they shot in the shots they took with 15 to 18 seconds remaining on the shot clock yesterday, they went 13 for 17 from the field, 77%. All other shots, 23 for 60, 38%. And that just feels like that's just like their half court offense has no shot.
Yeah.
And I truly feel like over the course of a 7-game series, it's going to have no shot. Like, I'm not going to say you won't maybe make more difficult shots in one game than another, but like, even like they hit the threes at a high level, and it still was like when they played half court offense, they just can't generate anything. And I don't really feel good about their chances to do so anyway. To be honest, like, I think you just be riding the Ant heater, Like,
yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Does that make the case for just try to let Ant be super duper man? And because
I mean, yeah, he has more of a mid-range game, but we saw that in the West Finals last year. Like, when a defense like that with the personnel they have commits to you, they can really make it hard on you to where maybe you can pull one out, but like, it's not going to happen again and again. Yeah, it always feels like with Minnesota offensively against OKC, like if you try to get to something, you're like, you can always be like, but the problem with that is, like I don't know, like, even if what person could come up with an answer of like, this is how we're going to do it. I think you probably put out your best, like whatever is your best combination of defense and tempo is what I would try to play. But you just look at it yesterday, and it's like they played, I think Jalen Williams' defensive rating was like 118 yesterday, but Chet's was in the 90s and iHeart's was in the 80s. And it's just like when they put their defensive personnel out there, Minnesota really struggles to score. And that I don't really see that changing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what would make me go to the Ant option, I think, of like really, really, really heavily leaning into Ant as my plan, because I'm not sure that this team has enough, like, even if they play team basketball like they're trying to do all year and they execute it like pretty well, I still don't know if you're like, I don't like the Wolves' odds of winning a series against the Thunder, even if they're playing good team basketball and all of these things and the Randle thing, and we're figuring out Anderson, Gobert, pick and roll, and everybody's kind of in the mix. I think their path to beating the Thunder, I don't think this is, generally speaking, a good idea for the Wolves in general, but I think it is to give Ant full trust, not just to be a scorer, but to play make there too. And in ways that he shows he's very inconsistent with and hasn't shown it. But I think it's like, I think that's their path of like, he just offensively overpowers them and they are adapting coverages and showing doubles and fouling him. And he overcomes it all and shows to be one of the best players in the entire league and scores the entire series at a high, like it's like Allen Iverson shit, like back then. Like I really think that is, I think just from a roster standpoint and the incompatibility of this Wolves roster that they have internally in their like I just don't think it can compete against what I think is going to go down of one of the better teams ever. Like I get the instinct to try to be like, let's do Randle again and let's see if we can make Rudy's hands work better and make more free throws and turn it over less. I don't believe that this team, that's a high likelihood at all that they're going to be able to figure that out against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Against Phoenix on Tuesday, yes, I think the Wolves can do those marginal things better and win games. And maybe in the first round, if they play Houston or LA, I think they can do that. I don't think the teamwork version of this group goes as high as Oklahoma City is likely to play at. And so, yeah, I'd throw the last grenade, which is just like, Ant, go be perfect. And obviously that's a long shot too.
Yeah, and it is because like the teamwork aspect does too often lead to like hey, we got it down to our big man on a roll near the rim. Oh, they slept it away. Oh, they're going the other way for two. Where like the things where you're like, nice, we did it. We broke down their defense. And it's like, 4-point swing the other way because we couldn't execute that. So I understand what you're saying there. I do think like the only caveat would be, okay, the first 10 seconds of the shot clock, we're not going with that mindset because it's not like get the rebound and give it to Ant. It's not that. And then dribble it up slowly. Like it's like go. But if we get to the point where once the secondary transition period is over, and you're going to pull it out anyway or whatever, it's like, okay, now where's Ant? And the second half of the shot clock belongs to him because at that point he's the best option. So I don't disagree with that. I think it would just be like, okay, but it's not he gets the ball and walks it up the court.
I was being hyperbolic.
Yes,
I'm glad you said that because that's what I mean. That is what I mean. But it's just like it sort of happens in the midst of games sometimes where Finch just goes, okay, increase the license that Ant has to go here. And I mean, we talked last week. We literally talked about the opposite of this last week of like, it's really important for this team, especially in the first quarter, for other players to be involved and all that. And I still do believe that.
Yeah.
Like
this is a very
this is a Thunder specific thing where it's just like, and I don't know, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe the thing is just to do what we were talking about last week and spread the ball around and trust that. I don't know. It comes down to a fundamental like lack of belief that I have that the Wolves can play any game against the Oklahoma City Thunder and not turn the ball over 20 times. Like I'm betting every individual game, maybe not 20, really high turnover game, and if that's the case, it just in theory, right, should push you to like hone your offense in a way that doesn't get as exposed in that way. And I know what they'll do is they'll say, we need to take better care of it. We can run more plays. We can be more disciplined. We can get out and train. I mean, that's what it'll all be. But I'm just getting to the point of like, of not believing as much in the frequency that can happen and even how good that optimized version of this Wolves team is. Again, in comparison to the best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
This Wolves team is a team that's like about as good as the other bottom teams in the West, like the middle of the teams in the West. Like that's just what they are. They got a version that they should play the first round against the Lakers and probably beat them at. This is just a different animal. And we're seeing that animal time and again, sort of expose the same issues that we know are existing holes on this team.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, I always thought, okay, the Wolves' path to beating the Thunder is to play their best version of defense and turn that defense into offense. And I think that's what we saw in game 3 of the West Finals last year. Like the Wolves were a harassing defense, a version that we saw a couple of years ago. And it was like, okay, the Thunder couldn't get into anything. They were very frustrated. Minnesota was the one hitting first on that end. And not only like forcing tough shots, forcing turnovers, going the other way. And it was like an avalanche. And it was that from start to finish. I don't think the Wolves have that gear anymore. And I think the Thunder have added more pieces, like you said, like the incorporation of Mitchell into the rotation, acquiring McKay and Isaiah Joe gets a little better each year. Like they have better offensive options. So no matter what look you have at them, it used to be like, okay, we throw multiple bodies at Shea. Okay. And then Shea has to get out the ball, and you can't trust any of their guys to knock down shots consistently. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. They've kind of added personnel where like whatever you do, they actually have a little bit of a counter to it. And they don't necessarily even have to go to these guys, but they can if the game's going a certain way, like it was yesterday for a large part where OKC couldn't score either. But now they have answers. So now I don't think it can be like crank up the defense and go from there, because I don't believe in that the same way you don't believe in a lot of what the Wolves can do offensively.
Right. Well, that's even before J-Dub's back, like
Right.
he comes back and then, maybe Jared McCain isn't even playing at all, but it's somebody you could then go to. And if you foul trouble or something in a series or make a pivot to playing smaller and shooting, they're just loaded. Okay. It was, some people might be, listening to this and being like, well, I thought they did a pretty good job against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which I did, and, Dane and Jace, why isn't that a counterbalance for everything that you complained about for the first 20 minutes? And I think some of that's fair. Be more fair if I felt like I understood what they did to SGA yesterday to really limit him. I put that in there to you too. Like, what do you think worked against SGA? And is it something repeatable? If you're a Thunder fan, if you're Mark Daigneault, do you go, oh, like, this gives Shai issues here? What did you make of the fact that he was 5 of 18 from 2 in this game? Is that something the Wolves should be really encouraged about, that they found something here?
Yeah, I mean, it was good defense on him, I thought. But they switched, pressed up, and I thought they made some jumpers tough. Like, on a normal day, I definitely think Shai makes a higher number of those jumpers. I watched back this morning after you made it as a talking point. I was like, okay, some of these are pretty decent looks that he's just missing. That's not to take away from the Wolves. Like, I think the Wolves did a good job, but I think against a player like Shai, I think if they played that game again, the Wolves did the exact same things. I think Shai would have been more efficient. That was just kind of a rough shooting game from him. Then by the end of the game, it was like, all right, we're showing him 2. Pick and rolls. It was like, okay, 2 guys here, make him pass out of it. And actually, like, they forced a little chaos with that. And then they just generally just turned the ball over going the other way. So it didn't matter. But yeah, I mean, I think like just in general, the plan throughout the game, like it's about as good as it gets. Like, okay, switch, play up, like make some of these mid-range jumpers a little tougher, 5% tougher, and hope he misses some. And he did. So I think that would be like a plan. It would be a repeatable plan. It probably wouldn't be as effective as it was yesterday, but like it was solid. I think they played good defense on him.
Yeah, I did too. I thought Ant in particular, just putting in the work there. And
I think Julius did a good job too, even when he was switched there. I think
but obviously the one block he had at the basket. I mean, that is the thing. Is like all of these the Wolves' 2 worst defenders who played this season have been Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, like far and away. But like in an isolation situation, I kind of like both of their abilities to step up and elevate, especially if they're looking across and the guy that they're guarding in an isolation situation is the MVP. Like those guys will step up there. And so I think like the only like major concern I have from a Wolves perspective about the Thunder offense is that they'll just get into one of their fast break blitzkriegs, where they're getting steals and they're scoring, and it's just like at you. I think the Wolves can do a pretty good job against the Thunder in the half court. And part of that, again, showed up yesterday with Shai not playing as well. But it brings me back to the stuff from the beginning where I go, I'm not like, I could see have a playoff game where the Wolves hold Shai under 20 points. I could 7-game series. I could see them doing that. I'm not sure the Wolves would necessarily win that game though. Like slowing down Shai did not seem to open up the game for the Wolves, because they just they didn't have other things going on the other side of the ball because they turned it over, because they don't have enough ball handling, because the roster's flawed. I mean, it's like even the things that go well right now in this matchup, I just go back to like, well, cool, you did this thing well, but are you fundamentally flawed in these other areas that it doesn't matter. But I don't want to take away from the job that they did against Shea. That was good, and Jaden was in foul trouble. I would, if you would have told me before the game that Jaden was going to be in foul trouble, I'd be like, is that Dante and Ant are guarding Shea? Like that's what I would have thought, and I would have been concerned about that. But they did step up there for Jaden, and really limited Shea. That's encouraging. But I don't know if it's like a proof or something like that.
Yeah, I keep going back to it, but I just think that OKC's roster is a little bit better built for, like, you took away Shea. Where else can we find offense? Like, obviously the turnovers and fast break and whatnot's great, but like they started the game really rough from three and they finished at 38% because they just have more shooters now. Like they have more guys that they can turn to, even when like a lot of their best wing defenders aren't hitting shots, which they're kind of prone to do, getting into those stretches. Like they're streaky guys. Dort, Wallace, all these guys are like streaky shooters. They have more guys. They have more ways to find options. They have more ways to get into offense. Like we saw the McCain-Ihart stuff. Like I think it'd be silly to take McCain out of the rotation and remove that because McCain's fitting in pretty well defensively and is a more polished, more reliable offensive threat, I think, than some of these other guys. And so, like, I just think they have more that they can go to where in the past, if you shut down Shea, I think the Thunder could kind of be cooked in those games. And I think it's less and less so, as Mitchell has come back and kind of comes along, and it's just another good on-ball creator. And then you just have more consistent shooters out there as well.
Awesome Dosunmu game. Awesome Dosunmu weekend, I thought. I mean, it was that Warriors game was really like, wow. I've had better Friday nights in my life than this.
The first half was like, all right, that was solid basketball. And then the second half was like, this is hideous. But
it was. But like amidst this hideous game where if you missed it, not like the Warriors had like 6-7 players playing in the game and it was not a real opponent. But I was I'm still watching the game and, Io comes in. Jaden was in foul trouble that game too, right? And Io comes in early and I'm like really encouraged by Io and I'm like about to type out like best IO game yet. And I'm like, okay, delete, they're playing this Warriors team, whatever. And then I thought he picked up right where he left off from the Warriors game against the Thunder. I thought he was awesome there. And I do really feel like his comfort within this role. I think he gets it now. I think he does provide, a lot of papering over of some of the holes that they had, and then just at times can be a little bit dynamic. Not a real point guard, not a real like take over the game sort of guy, but I was 6 for 6 in the first half yesterday against the Thunder, 3 for 3 from 2, 3 for 3 from 3. Fast. They've added another really good player to their rotation, and I was kind of those first 6 or 7 games like, is he figuring this out, or was he maybe just a little bit of a product of that Bulls system? Now I feel like he's figuring this out and looks like the player he was from the Bulls system, fitting in here, learning how to fit here. I'm pretty high on the IO experience thus far, within the confines of like not thinking there's way. Well, he is what he is, a really good fringe starter caliber player. I think it's great for this team, but not like there's many more levels to go to. But I was really impressed by him this weekend.
It's almost frustrating, I think, because we've seen this with TJ in the past against the Thunder and TJ against Portland, where it's like the Wolves are willing to activate these guys, like the players on the court are willing to activate these types of teammates when it's tough, when it's a team that's tough to bring the ball up against. When it's like, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to like go play half court offense against these guys. Go ahead, Io. And then they go. And Io multiple of those twos you're talking about are in that semi-transition, and he gets into the paint and he hits those 6-foot floaters. And it's like, it's good offense. It's the best you can get against these guys. And then they don't do it in the other games because it's like, actually kind of want to play some half court offense tonight. I like what I get against these guys. It's like when it's like, oh, okay, I'd rather have you do it than me in this one because it's really hard in this game. To where they just don't consistently make it part of their identity. So then it's hard for Io to know where he fits in. It's like some matchups, yes, some matchups, no. they've got to play into it more. They've got to be more consistently of like, this is always good for us. So like, let him go and run with them and all of that stuff, and not just pick and choose when it's convenient for you. That's important. And that's, if you want a consistent IO, I think you have to consistently let him go be him. And I don't feel like this group of players, as we talked about, a lot of them like to play slow. I don't feel like they all consistently let him be him, and they don't kind of go, okay, I'm going to run with him. Like we talked about how it's great. Oh, he'll make him run with you. But it doesn't always work that way, because hierarchy matters. Like, and who controls the game is who has the ball usually. And so that's one of the tougher things that they need to, over these last 15, whatever games, however many it is, they need to play into that and make it part of their identity, because it's not right now. And so that they can consistently have it come playoff time.
We talk a lot, or have talked over the years about, the Wolves not necessarily being a high across the board compared to the rest of the league, high basketball IQ team. We've got a lot of examples about that. Some of the immaturities, younger group, slower to learn, and like make it not slower to learn, but slower for it to like really integrate into the fiber of what your team was. And when you were just talking about Io there, I was thinking about how long it felt like it took to integrate Dante DiVincenzo.
Sure.
And even Julius, that's kind of its own thing, because that's such an integration. But just even just from a Dante standpoint, like, I don't think Dante was done any favors really by the surrounding personnel to like expedite his comfort within the Wolves rotation last season. I just don't think that's really, I think the other Wolves players just kind of kept doing what they were doing. And I think the same thing's going on with Io right now. I think how the Wolves group works is like, they wait for these players to show them what they can do, and then they go, oh, Io can do that, rather than like creating space for Io to do that and then being like, does that the distinction I'm making there? Like, Io kind of needs to show them. Dante needed to show them what they were doing. And I don't know. I mean, I guess at this point he showed them, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it is a little disappointing if it's like, man, sometimes I feel like these guys are not given help. By the personnel out there.
I feel like it's like, I need you to do this for me right now. It's not that it's like, and then other games it's like, hey, remember I can do that, and it's like, I don't need you to do that for me right now. Like, so it's like, oh, okay, so I'm just here when you need me. Like that is what it feels like for me. I'm not like, oh, let's make sure we get you that, because that helps you get going, and that helps the team. It's like, we don't need that right now, thanks, I'm good over here. And then other games,
I do think
like,
Finch is starting to step in and be like, no, we need that. And from when he's playing and stuff like that. I get what you're saying, but it does feel like Finch is starting to be like, nope, he is involved in this. This is Io gets that for you. Like this is a non-negotiable. I mean, when he's been coming in, when he's been playing, I know Jaden's been hurt, but I think Finch is very much going to further and further push it, like he did with Dante. I mean, look at the gradual Dante progression last year, even into becoming a starter. Sorry, cut you off, but I think Finch is the connector there.
It is interesting watching Io, like when he's playing movement, which is often in transition, how much better of a basketball player he is. It can also be like off the catch can happen too, but these stationary things is like, he's just not as comfortable. Like whenever it looks like he's shot putting a three, it's not going in. But like so much more just like natural. Like you can tell when he is playing in a rhythm, and you can tell when he's kind of like had to become a stationary player. And the stationary version of him is like, man, it's like 60% of what the idealized version of him is.
Yeah. And I mean, and Bones has been playing well together, and those guys like bring that out in each other. But it's just like, that's just what this team needs a little bit more of, just like across the board of like, how can I help you bring out like 5% more of who you are? And I do think that's coaching too, is imploring your players to do that, showing them how to do that. But it's just very much feels like people just kind of find their stuff on their own a lot. And maybe that's just the reality of a team that doesn't have a point guard. I don't know. And it's just missing that. I don't know.
I know what you're saying, but isn't the case of the best players ever to play basketball is that they make the game easier for those around them?
Yeah.
And they make things better for them. Like, somebody goes to Denver and it's like, oh, wow, they just got way better at basketball.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Like, yes, coaching for sure. Like, that matters in too. And then, so it's like, it's Ant and Finch and maybe some Julius, but like it's Ant and Finch have to do it too. I think of like, okay, how do I have this player? How do we make them better? And that should be it. It shouldn't be like, man, how do we even get them to be the version of themselves that they were before? It's like, how do we make them even better? And it
that
just
should be the
doesn't feel like
standard. Yeah.
Right.
Today's show is brought to you by Factor. And when I'm busy and when it's cold outside, grocery shopping and finding time to cook is tough. And that's why in our household, we do Factor every winter, because Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs. So I eat well without the planning or the cooking. These are quality functional ingredients, including lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. And there's a variety of the meals, over 100 rotating weekly meals to keep things fresh and delicious throughout the winter. Options include high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and ready to eat salads. They're always fresh, never frozen, ready in about 2 minutes with no prep and no stress. I use Factor, and I really think you should try it out too. Head to factormeals.com/DaneMoore50 off and use code DaneMoore50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while the subscription is active. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Harry's, and I think it is so great that something like Harry's exists. Back in the day, it was always brutal to need to go to the store to purchase razor refills. Those razors were also so expensive. In addition to being a high-quality razor, I think the best part of Harry's might be the price point. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany, so there's no outsourcing, there's no middleman, and because they control the entire process from steel to shelf, Harry's keeps costs low. Why pay $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of that? They just sent me a new blade with a new handle. You can connect the new blades to the handle when you need to replace your blade. That's really nice, and I kind of like that it's a weighted metal piece to it. It keeps the razor itself feeling new. It's like a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. If you don't love your shaves, Harry's will make it right. No questions asked. A risk-free trial means there's zero downside to giving it a shot. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/DaneMoore. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/DaneMoore to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. Did you get my what are the odds of the West going to the Western Conference Finals activity?
Yeah, I also, so you sent an example of what your friend did. I looked up on FanDuel of like the odds of teams making the conference finals. So go ahead, explain. Yes, go ahead and do that, and then I'll tell you what the actual
cool
market was.
I did not know that was up there. Yeah, well, so I was just thinking about, and this was actually before the game on Sunday against the Thunder. I was trying to be like, what are the Wolves' actual odds? Like, what is remove all the noise and stuff like that. Like, what are the chances that the Wolves get back to the Western Conference Finals this year? Because that kind of feels like the bar, the expectation. I hear people go on other people's shows all the time of like, if they don't go to the Western Conference Finals, what's going to happen, Dane? And I'm like, I always ask people, I'm like, oh, is that your bar? Is that well, yeah, they went there 2 years in a row. So like, that's the bar. Below that is
regression,
underachieving.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm, so I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, I don't think it's 50-50 that the Wolves go to the Western Conference Finals right now, because I think Oklahoma City and San Antonio are more likely than not going to, go to the conference. So I'm like, what are the odds, and how big of a gap is the reality of where this team is trending right now versus that expectation that they maybe have on the outside of getting there, or having even a 50% chance of getting to the Western Conference Finals. So I just posed to you, what do you think the Wolves' odds of going to the Western Conference Finals are, and the other 5 teams that are in the mix? So like Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Denver, Minnesota, Houston, and LA. Like, what are their odds of going to the Western Conference Finals? Not winning the Western Conference, just getting there, getting to the same place that the Wolves have been the last 2 seasons. So yeah, fill me in on what the actual odds are.
Yeah, okay. So FanDuel's to make the conference finals, and like these numbers, our percentages will be different because their percentages of these top 6 come in more than 200%. which is obviously like they're trying to make money. It comes out to 212%. But the implied odds, just off of their odds, like the implied probability: Oklahoma City, 81%, San Antonio, 58%, Denver, 33%, Houston, 17%. Houston actually has better odds than the Wolves right now to make the conference finals. Minnesota, 13%, and the Lakers, 10%.
Okay. I'm comparing that against. You said the Lakers were 10?
10%. Yep.
Okay. Well, let's go through it one by one. They say the sports books say Oklahoma City 81%. I wrote down 75% of going to the Western Conference Finals. What'd you say?
77. So yeah.
77?
I had 75, and then I was like, that seems a little low.
I had that too. No, if I'm being honest,
I'm just making everybody else's numbers fit for me. Yeah, like I needed to make other people like I eventually took some away, and then I added a couple back. Yeah.
No, I did that too. I definitely started at 8. Okay, yeah, I mean, and so like the way I was thinking about it is like there'll be to get to 75% odds, that's like being a 98% chance to win in the first round, and then like an 80% chance to win in the second round. I was like, okay, yeah, like I do. That's why I have Oklahoma City and San Antonio so high as they have a 100% chance just about of getting out of the first round, which I don't know if the Wolves fall down to 7, maybe that mixes some stuff up there. But sure. as of right now, I have Oklahoma City and San Antonio as having really high odds because I think they have a free first round. So I had Oklahoma City at 75, and then I had San Antonio at 60, and it looks like you said Vegas has 58 for San Antonio. What did you have?
Yeah, so I did 45. Because I do think like their first round series could be a little bit more competitive, but also so like maybe more like a 95. And then that second round, I'm just interested to see. I just don't know how much I trust the team that like I don't know how much I trust their shooting. And then just the experience and the physicality, and it's all a little different. And you're going to probably go up against somebody like if you go up against a Denver or Minnesota, it's these teams that are used to all of this, and it's your first run at it. So at that point, I am like I would give them like a 50% chance of winning in the second round. And then you bump in the first round odds, like 45. So I have them lower.
50. Only 50.
Correct.
So, okay.
Their betting odds, I'm sure, will be favored of all of it, but I've just seen enough of like OKC 2 years ago against Dallas, just of like it's the lights are bright. It's a lot of guys like have to make shots. They have games where they don't. It's tough. And then like Wemby's gonna have to adjust to something different too. Like I think it'll be very, very competitive second round series. Their second round series against anybody will be the series that I'm most intrigued to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You included a lot of people like that I respect or I think are smart that I talked to it about San Antonio. It is a lot of this like the Oklahoma City of 2 years ago thing comes up, and it does seem. I guess what I'm saying is I think there's being a little bit too much baked in expectation that they're going to falter. That's just my opinion. I obviously see what you're saying. I watch them all the time. Yep. Shooting's an issue. Wemby, I don't think he's going to play more than 30 minutes in the playoffs. Like, is he just going to run out of gas? There's also those sort of things. I get it, but
I would pick Denver to beat San Antonio in a 7-game series.
Would
that's
you?
where
okay.
Yeah. So like so part of these odds then are like I don't know if there's a very good chance Denver isn't in that side of the bracket. But that's where I get it to like 50 is like, well, I think I would pick this other team to beat them.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me where you're at with Denver then. I had to recap. I had OKC 75, San Antonio 60, and I have Denver at 30. You have OKC at 77, San Antonio at 45, and what do you have Denver at?
Denver at 37.
37.
Yeah. Okay. And a lot of that is like, again, which side of the bracket do you end up on? Because I don't think I'd pick them against Oklahoma City, though I do think that would be a competitive series. But I wouldn't love their odds there, and I would like it a lot better on the other side. And then obviously, like, hey, if they get in the first round of Minnesota, like that's still a tough matchup for them too. So who knows if they'd even make it out.
Right. The way I thought about it with Denver, and I had them at 30%, was like, I think both of their first round series are better than coin flips, like because 25% would be coin flip in the first round, coin flip in the second round. As I'm not, I don't know, against San Antonio, maybe whatever, maybe that wouldn't be better than a coin flip or be close. But I think overall Denver deserves more than 25% chance of making it. And I bring that up because that's how I used mine to sort of frame the Wolves. I go, well, if the Wolves had a 50% chance expected value in the first round and in the second round, that would be 25% odds.
Right.
And I go, I don't think that's right. I think I don't think they'll be the favorites in both of those rounds, and that's what would need to be above 25. So I started asking myself of like, how much lower below 25 do I need to go here? And I got down to 15% for Minnesota to go to the Western Conference Finals again, using that logic of, I don't think they're favorites in both of the rounds like I would Denver, who I have at 30%.
Yeah. So I did 18, and I think I gave him a couple. Like, that's where I was like pulling points from at other points because it just felt wrong, even while watching this week of basketball, even while I have contended for a while now that this just doesn't feel the same. It hasn't felt the same for a while for me. Like, even when they went to Denver and won, I was like, that didn't feel the same to me. I felt that way for a while that I don't like. Yes, you can say, hey, they can turn it on. They've done it before. None of this feels the same to me. I still just gave him a few more points, and we're both higher than the Vegas odds. We're both higher on this probability that is baked in to go over 200%. And they're at 13%, and we both stuck to 200% and gave them higher. There's like a respect thing of, I think, what we've watched in the playoffs the last couple of years, but just the basketball that I'm watching right now, I just don't really see it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if they went Lakers or Houston, I would pick Minnesota to win that series. And then if they went San Antonio, I would pick San Antonio to win that series, but I would certainly see a path for the Timberwolves to find a way to do it. So that's where like 18 is not a high number, like less than 1 in 5, but more than 1 in 6. That feels about right to me.
This is a funny conversation I'm realizing after we just had the first half hour of the episode where we basically said we don't think the Wolves have any shot against Oklahoma City.
Correct. I mean,
that's a playoff series, but it is what we're saying.
Is like, which side of the bracket are you ending up on? I really, that's where I'm at with OKC right now. Is that I think they're going to be very tough to beat, but I think you'd have a chance against the Spurs, and it's like, where do you finish? Like, I think you'd much rather be 6 than 4 or 5 right now. As was the case last year.
Yeah. So the way to probably look at it for the Wolves is to be like, how do you like their odds in the series against San Antonio and Denver compared, like that threesome, if they all played each other, do you like the Wolves amongst that group? That's how you kind of push their odds up a little bit. And I think I do. I think, we've seen them compete with San Antonio, obviously a long-standing history with Denver and different iterations of the team. But I don't know. I do kind of wonder if we're giving the Wolves a little bit of like expectation by being like, I think they'll really be competitive with San Antonio. Right. I'm not totally sure. But it is much lower than Oklahoma City. I think it's competitive. Yeah,
I think it could go the other way. I think it could be like, yep, done in 5, couldn't score, turn the ball over a bunch. Like I could see it going that way, but I just think there's a higher probability, not a big one, but a higher one of, they just like they've been here before. They cranked it up. They're defensively were really tough on San Antonio. San Antonio couldn't score. And then Ant was better at the end of games. That's possible.
I left this bit out of the Rudy stuff we were talking about at the beginning, and shout out Jake Painting. That's how him tweet about this and made me write it down in the notes. But Rudy is feeling like he's going to be an offensive liability against any of these teams. Oklahoma City, we saw it yesterday. San Antonio, like you can't use Rudy in pick and roll if Wemby's out there in a drop, right? Like Wemby blots out Rudy's offensive value as a screen and roller, at least. Denver ignores him, which demands his teammates like acknowledge his presence, and that's not Rudy's teammates' preference is to acknowledge his presence. Houston, I don't know. He struggled in that first match. They've only played him once this series. Struggled in that. Historically, I don't. Şengün kind of gives it to him. I don't know. They have 2 more games against Houston. We'll see there. LA has really muted. Since JJ Redick's been there, muted Rudy's impact. Like they dare him to be ignored, and they play that zone. Like, which of these opponents is Rudy going to be able to be impactful against? I think is a really big question. And if you're kind of like me here, being like, I don't know, like I'm sure maybe he'll have a couple good games per series, but I feel like a lot of these teams give him issues. That's how I find myself like bringing the Wolves down. Is because that's what we know about this team is like if something's exploited with it, and it just kind of leaks until the ship sinks. And that's what I kind of feel about Rudy on offense against all of these teams that we're talking about in the top 6 in the Western Conference there. So I don't know. Maybe Houston it'd be better than it was. No Steven Adams anymore, all that sort of stuff. But for the most part, I'm concerned about Rudy on offense in the playoffs. Period.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where history. Like, I mean, again, just go back to the playoff game logs last year. Like, it was like a lot of 26 minutes a game. Like a lot of stuff like that. And you can point to that one Lakers game, but that was by game 5. The Lakers were like, not Ant beating us.
And they played 5 players the whole second half, and none of them were over 6'7".
4. Yeah, of game 4. Yeah. Game 5, they totally shifted it of like not only like not guarding Rudy on the roll, not competing at the rim there. Even when he caught the ball on the roll, like there was no low man there. And then like say the Wolves still didn't get it to him and missed the shot, nobody boxed him out. Like it was literally like the most free run you'll ever have in a game.
He had 24 rebounds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that just doesn't happen if somebody's paying attention to you. Like no matter what. It's just and yeah, that's I'm with you. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm almost just assuming that it's going to be like play half the game. I really that's where I think it's probably headed. I'd be surprised if not right now because offensively, so many of these top teams are really good defensively, and it's difficult for the Wolves to counter that when Rudy's on the court. We've just seen that too much here. Like we'll see how the Houston games look the rest of the way, certainly. But yeah, I agree.
No, I don't know why that's striking me. I want to like push back on the idea that Rudy's going to play 24 minutes per game, 25 minutes per game in the playoffs, but like you're right. I mean, we're watching this.
Yeah, it's history and evidence, it's like we've seen the history, so something would have to change, and nothing we've really seen this year says something's going to change. So that's where I'm at with it.
All right. Well, if you play Rudy Gobert 24 minutes per game during the playoffs, you better trade him in the offseason. You better trade him. You're then because you are not using an asset then. Like on the floor, your personnel isn't using it, and that's probably your best thing that you can trade to go get something else. So if this group can't figure it out with Rudy on both sides of the ball, some other team will. That has higher basketball IQ players, wants to play more of a spread floor look, pick and roll, like spread pick and roll, play drop coverage, play Utah Jazz basketball. Like some team will do that and pay up for that. And this group, this is on Rudy's. I mean, Rudy can't catch, like all that stuff too. Like, but some other team will take on those problems. It seems ridiculous to me that Rudy should play 24 minutes in a playoff series, but I hear your prediction. And like, what's going to happen whenever they're down by double digits? What always happens?
Yeah, correct. Exactly. It's good offense for it. I'm not even saying it's right. Like I also point like last year, like Rudy had the best net rating in the West Finals. Like, but it's just when the things are going south. Yeah, when they trail in a game, it's like, well, let's get our offensive lineup out there. Let's space the floor because we aren't good enough decision makers in traffic. So let's eliminate the traffic, best case possible. Because we'd even see it again, like yesterday. So much of it is that's just no predictive passing. Like there's no like this guy's going here, so this guy's gonna be open. It's wait until the person is open, and then there's no cutting off of like, oh, they're here. So it's so much like driving into the lane and pass to the corner, and a lot of times like it'd be like a low man the rotation from the wing. OKC's defender would come down to the corner and just be there to pick off the pass because there's not like this guy's. Yeah, there's not this guy is going to rotate down to the corner, so I need to kick it out. Like to more of the wing, it just doesn't happen on this team. Like there's no thinking 2 moves ahead. It doesn't happen. And it's like the passes that you see these really high level playmakers make. It's not just Ant and Julius did it a bunch yesterday. It's like driving in to the paint and somebody better be wide open and then you kick to them. And that just doesn't work against these high-level defensive teams. So I think Minnesota then is like, well, we just need a bunch of shooting, and nobody can be clogging anything because if something like if it's not obvious, we can't make the pass. And so the best way to make it obvious is like, well, let's get 5 shooters out there. So if they leave anybody, we have a pretty decent chance of getting it to where it needs to go.
Huge game against Phoenix tomorrow. The Wolves are the 6th seed with 27 losses on this season currently, and Phoenix has 28 losses. So they will be tied. If Phoenix were to come to Minnesota tomorrow, and beat the Wolves, those teams would both be tied in the loss column. This is like just need to take care of business game. I mean, they need to keep themselves in the top 6 here. If they lose to Phoenix and this team fine. I mean, it's just
if they lose to Phoenix without Brooks at home in a game where it's clearly like a big one, like you need it. Yeah. Man, I think that would be a really bad signal for what's to come the rest of the season.
Yeah. And they're just like, they literally can't afford it. Like, yeah. Right. And I'm not assuming it will happen. It's just, I guess I bring it up to be like, they better have the right approach. They better have the right approach in this game. Like, somebody needs to get through to them that, like,
I'm sick of this Phoenix team. Like, they've lost 4 out of 5. They've lost, and those 4 losses have come by double digits, and they played like crap against the Warriors. Like, if they still don't have the right approach, I think at some point it's just like they're just not very good. Like, I would be so off of they just aren't taking this game seriously. Because how many times has that been the case this season? I think lately it's like, well, these good teams that they should have taken seriously, they just played bad. So maybe they're just playing bad. Like I was with approach earlier. Like, so much, it's like it's not the same. Because, like, if it was all about approach, as we've seen in the past, they would have been more competitive against Oklahoma City yesterday. But right now, they just don't look like a very good basketball team. And I'm way more of that than, like, they're just not taking these games seriously enough. I think that's true in the past. I don't think it's true right now.
That's a good point. No, and I can't argue with that. I guess all I'm saying is I would be disappointed to watch the first 5 minutes of that game and the Wolves come out flat. Which, to your point, probably like a 40% chance that they do come out flat and don't have a lot of effort in the first couple minutes of the game against Phoenix, right? Like, they've shown to be that, and you're being like, yeah, Dane, that's what they are. And I'm being like, yeah, that's disappointing. Well, like, I don't know. So right. I guess I do think, though, and our numbers kind of point out to it, that, like, we do still see this, like, thread of this pathway for this team to get their shit together over these last 14, 15 games of the regular season, avoid the 7 seed, avoid the play-in, have 5 days off before that first round game, practice, hammered everything in, same blueprint as last year. So they can go play and maybe beat LA again, or it's Houston, whoever they play in the first round, and then go to the next round again. And so long as they don't have to play Oklahoma City, maybe they can shoot the moon against Wemby and the Spurs, or Wemby and the Spurs are a little bit fraudulent or something, and they win that. Like, we both see a fairly clear path to the Western Conference Finals, although a specific one that requires not needing to go through a 7-game series against Oklahoma City. And I think a lot of people are going to push back on us on this episode for being like, you guys are saying they have no shot against Oklahoma City. And I'm not saying in an individual game. I've seen them beat Oklahoma City twice this year. I saw that game on January 29th. The Wolves can absolutely get to that level. We are talking about over a 7-game series. Over a 7-game series, beating them 4 times. And the consistency that would need to come with that. I don't believe in consistency with this Wolves team.
I'll go a step farther. If the Wolves play against Oklahoma City without Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, AJ Mitchell, and Jared McCain, I think they could even win a series. That January 29th Thunder lineup, I think the Wolves could maybe win that series if the Thunder don't have any guys. But like their full addition to their roster, I don't see it. But yeah, and I will say, like,
I don't get why they have plus odds to win the championship right now.
No, I don't either.
I think they're going to win the championship.
I think so too. If they're healthy, like all things equal, like somebody can go down. That's probably why it's plus odds. It's 2 months of basketball. Like
I guess
somebody can get hurt easily. And then, yeah.
I think they were minus odds at this time last year. Sorry, go ahead and talk about.
Yeah. It's. I will say when you talk about this, and I feel the exact same way. Of like, oh, you give the Wolves a week lead up to a series, like they're a much better basketball team. We've seen that. We've seen it. You give them a week. They have a plan. They come out. They execute it. That, to me, with everything that everybody talks about with this team, tells me that it's not necessarily coaching that's the problem. If when you give them a week to hammer in, here is what you need to do, rep, and the game plan is good, and they can execute it. To me, that says more of like, that's how much repetition these guys need for it to sink in. that like on the fly every other game. They're doing the same game plan stuff in smaller periods of time, and they can't sink it in. And that to me is like, I don't see how we can say, oh, this coaching staff doesn't adjust, doesn't do this, whatever. When every time they get a week to work with these guys, the Wolves look like the better prepared basketball team. And that if that happens again, I have a really hard time saying like, oh, well, when they have more time, when the teams that have more time, wouldn't the better coach teams be the ones that do better with more time?
No.
That to me seems less off the cuff at that point. And that, so if they come out again and in the first round, it's like, oh, they're a better coach team, then I don't see how you could say that coaching is the issue versus maybe like, and maybe you can say coaching of like, we'll find a better way to get these guys to soak it in a day. Maybe, I guess, but yeah, if they come out again after a week of practice and it's like, well, yep, they're doing everything they're supposed to do and they're executing it after getting to drill it for 3 or 4 days, I think it's tough to say that coaching is like this team's problem at that point. And maybe it won't happen, but if it does,
it just has for the past few years.
Evidence.
Yeah, I get where you're going, and it to me, what it signals is a slow learning team,
right?
And
that's where
maybe
right.
And maybe it's that I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
You and I don't know enough about like how coaching works and receiving coaching works. Like maybe there's a slow teachers, but whatever. We know what the pattern of this team, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert team under Chris Finch has benefited greatly over the last few years from having time off where you wasn't it like 5 or 6 days, like actually off while the play-in's going,
yeah, you play Sunday and then you don't play again until Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, so that's
regular season ends and you get a full week until you.
We're talking like 5 practices, which
it's usually like 3 or 4. Yeah, yep.
3 or 4 practices. Okay, so like 5 days. Yeah, because you got to travel there.
Yeah.
I bet you the Wolves haven't had 4 practices. They haven't had 4 practices since the trade deadline. I bet.
Yeah, because remember they were going to do it post All-Star break, but then there was like travel, so they missed one because of snow. Yeah, yep. Yeah. They got one.
Yeah. I don't know how that got us, how we got on that off a huge game against Phoenix, but this was fun. It is a big game against them. We are getting to the end here where it's like, we're going to always talk about like what this team can do and where the upside is and where the pratfalls can come and all that sort of stuff. But we are getting to the point where we've seen this team for like close to 70 games and some things that like just harden my opinion some, and I just feel like I've seen it. I've seen them play Oklahoma City 4 times this year, and we're getting to have a better idea of what the regular season version of this team was. And it's been a little underwhelming, and that's just the reality of the situation this year. They see what business they can take care of in the these last few games, set themselves up for the playoffs to get that avoid the play-in tournament, get that rest in the first round, learn the game plans, do all that stuff again, and try and shoot the moon and go to the Western Conference Finals like they did a couple years ago, or the last couple of years they have. You and I give that about a 15 to 20% chance of happening, which isn't nothing. But that's where I think we're at right now. I appreciate you doing this with me today, and we'll see what happens on Tuesday against Phoenix. Thanks for doing it.
We'll see where we're at a week from now. Could be totally different. Might be 25.
Right.
Might be down to 8.
Yeah. That's that has been the theme of my episodes recently. Like me and Kyle did an episode. It was like the vibes are high around the Wolves. 7 days later, whoa. Yeah, it swings, it careens, but I feel good about my stance today. I think you do too. We kind of know what this team is and isn't at this point, and they need to just take care of some business here and try and put themselves in a better position to shoot the moon in the playoffs. He's Jace Frederick. You can read him in the Pioneer Press. Follow him on Twitter at Jace Frederick. I'm Dane at DaneMooreNBA. The next episode will be Chris Hine and I are going to record right after. We're going to go to the studio after the Wolves-Suns game and do an episode late on Tuesday night. Unless you got anything else, Chase?
I'm good.
Cool. Until Tuesday night with Chris. He's Jace. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah.